walls of glass and steel. The 42nd floor of Blackwood Tower breathed silence at 3 a.m. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a city pulsing with neon veins, while Julian Blackwood sat imprisoned behind mahogany and leather. At 32, he commanded billions but couldn't command sleep. His fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced emptiness, reviewing reports that mattered to everyone except him. The past month had carved hollows beneath his eyes, ever since the phone call that shattered everything. Tommy, 8 years old, orphaned. His responsibility now. The soft hum of wheels on marble broke through his mental prison. Julian's head snapped up. The cleaning crew wasn't due until 4 a.m. Through the cold wood of his office door came something unexpected. Humming. Not mechanical drone, but actual joy. He cracked the door and saw her. Rosalie Hart moved like water through the sterile corporate landscape. Her blue uniform somehow failed to diminish the light radiating from her movements. She polished each surface with care most people reserved for precious things, humming a tune that transformed the empty hallway into something almost sacred. At 24, Rosalie had learned to find magic in the mundane. Behind every office door lived someone's dreams. Even in the loneliest hours, she carried hope like a flame refusing to be extinguished. She noticed the corner office blazing with light. In 3 years of cleaning this building, she had never seen anyone working this late. Concern flickered through her chest. Whoever was inside must be carrying weight too heavy for daylight hours. She knocked softly before entering. The office was magnificent and cold, all rich wood and expensive art screaming of success achieved at the cost of warmth. But the man behind the desk drew her attention like a magnet. Dark hair disheveled, shirt wrinkled from hours of internal warfare. Julian looked up, startled. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other across the chasm of their different worlds. "I'm sorry," Rosalie said, her voice carrying warmth Julian hadn't heard in years. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I can come back later." Julian found himself studying her face, searching for the hidden agenda that never came. When was the last time someone had looked at him without wanting something? "It's fine," he replied, voice rougher than intended. "I was just finishing up." But Rosalie could see the lie in the tension of his shoulders, in the exhaustion carved around his eyes like battle scars. Without thinking, she set down her supplies and moved closer. "You look like you haven't slept in days. Is everything all right?" The question hit Julian like a physical blow. In his world of corporate sharks and social climbers, personal concern was a weapon, not a gift. But something in her tone suggested she actually cared. "Just work," he said. Then found himself adding, "It's been a difficult month." Rosalie nodded with understanding that felt like absolution. "My grandmother used to say the hardest times often come right before the most beautiful changes." Julian almost smiled. "Your grandmother sounds wise. She taught me that every person we meet is fighting battles we know nothing about. That's why kindness matters." As Rosalie began cleaning around his desk, Julian watched her work with fascination. She moved with meditative grace, treating each surface with reverence. For the first time in weeks, the crushing weight in his chest began to ease. Then Rosalie noticed the photograph partially hidden behind papers. Julian with a young boy, both laughing at something beyond the camera's reach, the first genuine smile she'd seen on his face, even captured in silver and glass. "He looks like you," she commented gently. Julian's expression immediately darkened. "That's my nephew, Tommy. His parents died in a car accident last month. The courts are deciding where he should live permanently." The raw pain in his voice made Rosalie's heart ache. "How is he adjusting?" "He's not," Julian admitted. "He barely speaks to me. I can run a multi-billion-dollar company, but I can't figure out how to help an 8-year-old boy who's lost everything." Rosalie saw through his polished exterior to the man drowning beneath. Children don't need perfect guardians. They need people who care enough to try. The fact that you're worried about doing right by him tells me you're already on the right path. "How do you know about children?" "I have 5 younger siblings. I practically raised them while my mother worked 3 jobs. Children can sense when someone genuinely cares, even if that person doesn't have all the answers." For the first time in weeks, Julian felt something dangerously close to hope. As Rosalie prepared to leave, Julian found himself desperate to extend this unexpected moment of peace. "What's your name?" "Rosalie," she replied, pausing at the doorway. "Rosalie Hart." "Julian," he said, though they both knew she already knew who he was. It was nice meeting you, Julian. I hope things get easier with your nephew. As she disappeared into the hallway, Julian stared at the empty doorway and realized something had fundamentally shifted. This woman, this stranger who cleaned his building in darkness, had offered him more comfort than years of expensive therapy. He stood abruptly, heart pounding with a decision that felt both reckless and necessary. He caught up to her by the elevators. "Rosalie, wait!" She turned, surprised. "Would you—" He hesitated, the words foreign on his tongue. "Would you consider helping me with Tommy? I'll pay you whatever you want. I just need someone who understands children, someone who cares." Rosalie's eyes searched his face, seeing the desperation he couldn't hide. "This isn't about money, is it?" "No," Julian admitted quietly. "It's about saving a boy who's drowning, and I don't know how to swim in his world." Rosalie bit her lip, weighing the risk of entering the life of a man who could afford anything except what he truly needed. "Let me meet him first," she finally said. "If Tommy and I connect, then we'll talk." Julian exhaled relief he didn't know he'd been holding. "Tomorrow, I can send a car." "I'll take the bus," Rosalie said with a small smile. "Just text me the address." As the elevator doors closed between them, neither noticed the security camera recording their exchange, or the figure watching the footage from a dim office 3 floors below, eyes narrowing with recognition and calculated interest. Julian Blackwood had just made himself vulnerable. And in this city, vulnerability was blood in the water. Julian's penthouse stretched across the top floor like a monument to loneliness, all glass and chrome and views that could stop hearts, but the silence inside was suffocating. Rosalie stood in the foyer, taking in the cold perfection. No family photos, no warmth, just expensive emptiness. "He's in his room," Julian said, tension threading through every word. "He hasn't come out except for meals in 3 days." Rosalie nodded, setting down the bag she'd brought. Coloring books, building blocks, a worn stuffed bear that had belonged to her youngest brother. "Let me try." She found Tommy's room at the end of a long hallway. The door was cracked open. Inside, a small figure sat by the window, knees pulled to his chest, staring at nothing. Rosalie knocked softly. "Tommy, my name's Rosalie. Your uncle asked me to visit." No response. She stepped inside, settling onto the floor a respectful distance away. She didn't speak, didn't push, just pulled out a sketch pad and began drawing. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, Tommy's curiosity won. "What are you drawing?" "A dragon," Rosalie said simply. "But I'm terrible at wings. You any good at wings?" Tommy hesitated, then slid off the window seat. He took the pencil she offered and added sweeping lines to the dragon's back. His hand moved with careful precision. "That's beautiful," Rosalie said softly. "You're really talented." Tommy's voice came out small and broken. "My mom used to say that." She was right. Tears welled in Tommy's eyes. "Uncle Julian doesn't know how to talk to me. He just stands there like he's scared I'm gonna break." "Maybe he is scared," Rosalie said gently. "Sometimes grown-ups don't know what to say when their hearts are breaking too." His heart isn't breaking. He didn't even cry at the funeral. Rosalie chose her words carefully. Some people cry on the inside where no one can see. That doesn't mean they're not drowning. Tommy looked at her, really looked, for the first time. "Why are you here?" "Did he pay you?" he offered. I said no. "I'm here because I wanted to meet you." "Why?" "Because I know what it's like to lose people, and I know how lonely it gets when everyone expects you to be okay." Something cracked in Tommy's armor. "I'm not okay." "You don't have to be." Tommy broke then, crying into Rosalie's shoulder while she held him and let him shatter in the safety of her arms. Julian found them like that an hour later. Tommy asleep against Rosalie, his face finally peaceful, Rosalie's hand stroking his hair with maternal instinct that made Julian's chest ache. "How did you do that?" Julian whispered. "I just listened," Rosalie replied quietly. "You should try it sometime." Julian's jaw tightened. "I don't know how." "Then learn, because that boy in my arms needs his uncle, not a stranger in an expensive suit." The words stung because they were true. "Will you help me?" Julian asked, vulnerability cracking through his armor. "Teach me how to reach him?" Rosalie studied him, seeing the man beneath the billions. I'll come 3 times a week. But this isn't about money, Julian. This is about Tommy. I understand. Over the next month, Rosalie became woven into the fabric of their broken household. She taught Julian how to ask questions that mattered, how to sit in silence without filling it with empty words, how to let Tommy be angry and sad and messy without trying to fix everything. Slowly, Tommy began to open up. He'd talk about his parents, his fears, his nightmares, and Julian learned to listen without offering solutions, just presence. But something else was growing too, something neither Julian nor Rosalie had anticipated. It started with lingering glances. The brush of fingers when passing Tommy's drawings, the way Julian's breath caught when Rosalie laughed, the way Rosalie's heart raced when Julian smiled at something Tommy said. Late one evening, after Tommy had gone to bed, Julian poured 2 glasses of wine. They sat on the balcony overlooking the glittering city, the night air cool against their skin. I don't know how to thank you, Julian said quietly. You've given me back my nephew. You did the work, Rosalie replied. I just showed you the door. You're more than that. Julian's eyes held hers. You're the first person in years who's seen me as more than a bank account or a business deal. Rosalie's pulse quickened. Julian, we can't what? Feel something real? Because I do, Rosalie. I feel something I haven't felt in a decade. I work for you. You don't work for me. You're helping Tommy. There's a difference. The space between them crackled with tension. Julian reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His thumb brushed her cheek. Tell me you don't feel this, he whispered. Rosalie couldn't, because she did feel it. Terrifyingly. Completely. Their lips met in a kiss that tasted of wine and risk and promises neither should make. It was gentle and desperate all at once, breaking down walls they'd both spent years building. When they pulled apart, breathless, Rosalie's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and went completely still. What is it? Julian asked. Rosalie's face had drained of color. Her hands trembled as she stared at the message. I have to go. Rosalie, what's wrong? She stood abruptly, grabbing her bag. I can't explain right now. I just need to leave. Did I do something wrong? No, God, no! Tears filled her eyes. This was perfect. But I have to go. Please don't follow me. She ran for the elevator, leaving Julian standing alone on the balcony, confusion and hurt crashing through him. He looked at his phone, pulling up the security footage he'd installed after hiring Rosalie. He'd told himself it was for Tommy's safety. But now he opened the feed from that night and saw something that turned his blood to ice. Rosalie, in the building's parking garage after one of her visits, meeting with a man Julian recognized immediately. Marcus Chen, Julian's former business partner. The man who'd tried to destroy Julian's company 2 years ago through corporate espionage. The man Julian had crushed in court and left professionally ruined. In the footage, Marcus handed Rosalie an envelope. She counted cash. Then they spoke in hushed tones. Marcus's hand on her shoulder, too familiar, too intimate. Julian's world tilted. Everything had been a lie. The kindness. The connection. The kiss. Rosalie's heart wasn't his salvation. She was Marcus Chen's weapon. Rosalie's apartment was small but warm, filled with photographs of family and hand-me-down furniture that carried stories. She sat on her bed, hands shaking as she reread the text message. He knows. Get out now. I'll handle Blackwood. Just run. Marcus's words burned into her retinas. This wasn't supposed to happen. None of this was supposed to happen. A sharp knock shattered the silence. Rosalie's heart stopped. She moved to the door, peered through the peephole, and saw Julian standing in her hallway. His face was carved from stone in fury. She opened the door because running would only confirm his suspicions. Julian, what are you? He pushed past her into the apartment, holding up his phone. The security footage played on the screen. Her, Marcus, the envelope of cash. Explain this, Julian said, voice deadly calm. And don't lie to me. I've had enough lies. Rosalie closed the door, mind racing. It's not what you think. Really? Because it looks like Marcus Chen paying you to infiltrate my life, to get close to Tommy, to me. His voice cracked. Was any of it real? All of it was real. Then explain the money. Rosalie's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her face. Marcus is my brother. Julian went still. What? Marcus Chen is my half-brother. Same mother, different fathers. We grew up together before she died. The words tumbled out between sobs. After you destroyed his career, he had nothing. No job, no reputation. He was blacklisted everywhere. He tried to steal company secrets. I know what he did. And I told him it was wrong. Rosalie's voice broke. But he's still my brother. The only family I have left besides my younger siblings. And they needed money for school, for rent, for survival. Julian's anger wavered, confusion bleeding through. So you took his money to spy on me? No. Rosalie grabbed his arms, desperate for him to understand. I refused at first. But then I met you that night in your office. And I saw Tommy. And Marcus said if I just spent time with you, reported back about your business dealings, he'd pay me enough to keep my family afloat. So you did spy. I tried. Fresh tears streamed down her face. For 2 weeks I tried to find something to give him. But then I got to know you, both of you, and I couldn't do it anymore. She moved to her desk, pulling out an envelope stuffed with cash. This is the money he gave me. I haven't spent $1. I was going to return it, but he keeps threatening to expose me if I don't follow through. Julian stared at the money, then at her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was terrified you'd hate me, that you'd keep me from Tommy, that you'd think everything between us was a manipulation. Her voice dropped to a whisper. That night on the balcony, that kiss, that was real, Julian. The most real thing I've felt in my entire life. Julian ran his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. Your brother tried to ruin me, and you're asking me to trust that you're different? I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to look at my actions. Look at what I've done for Tommy, for you. I fell in love with both of you, and that wasn't part of anyone's plan. The words hung in the air between them, raw and exposed. Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face went white. What is it? Rosalie asked. Tommy's school. He's missing. Terror replaced every other emotion. What? He didn't show up for afternoon classes. The school called my assistant, but I was here. Julian was already moving toward the door. I have to find him. I'm coming with you. No. Julian, please. He trusts me. If something's wrong, I can help. Julian's eyes met hers, pain and desperation warring in their depths. If this is a game, if you're part of whatever's happening to Tommy, I will destroy you. I love that boy like he's my own. Let me help. They rode to Tommy's school in brutal silence. The principal met them in the office, wringing her hands. We've called the police. But there's something you should see. She pulled up security footage from the parking lot. A man in a dark jacket approached Tommy after school. They spoke briefly. Then Tommy got into the man's car willingly. Julian leaned closer to the screen. Zoom in on the man's face, the principal did. The image cleared. Marcus Chen. Rosalie's world collapsed. No, he wouldn't. Julian grabbed her arm, fury and fear blazing in his eyes. What did you tell him about Tommy? Nothing. I swear I told him nothing. Julian's phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. You took everything from me, Blackwood. Now I'll take everything from you. You have 24 hours to transfer $50 million to the account below, or the boy disappears forever. And don't think about calling the police. I have eyes everywhere. Beneath the message was a photo of Tommy, bound and gagged in a dim room, terror in his 8-year-old eyes. Rosalie screamed. Julian caught her before she collapsed. This is your fault, Julian said, voice hollow. Your brother did this because of you. Julian, I didn't know. You have to believe me. But the look in his eyes said he didn't. Couldn't. The principal stepped forward. Mr. Blackwood, the police are on their way. No police, Julian said sharply. This stays between us. He turned to Rosalie, his face a mask of cold calculation. You're going to help me get Tommy back. Anything. I'll do anything. Good. Because you're going to call your brother and tell him you've convinced me to pay the ransom. Set up a meeting, and when he shows up to collect, I'll be waiting. What are you going to do? Julian's smile was ice. Whatever it takes. Rosalie's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Marcus answered on the first ring. Rosie, did you see the news? You kidnapped an 8-year-old child, she said, voice breaking. How could you? He'll be fine if Blackwood pays. This is justice, Rosie, for what he did to our family. This isn't justice. This is terrorism! Call it what you want. Just make sure Blackwood understands I'm serious. Rosalie looked at Julian, saw the murder in his eyes. He wants to pay, but he needs proof Tommy's alive first. A video call, silence. Then, fine, tomorrow, 3 p.m., I'll send the location. Come alone, Rosie, just you. If I see Blackwood or anyone else, the boy dies. The line went dead. Julian and Rosalie stood in the empty school office, the weight of impossible choices crushing them both. He wants me to come alone, Rosalie whispered. You're not going anywhere near him. He's my brother. If anyone can talk him down, it's me. Or he'll use you as another hostage. Rosalie met Julian's gaze, determination hardening her features. Then that's a risk I'll take, because I love Tommy, and I'm going to bring him home, even if it costs me everything. For the first time since seeing the security footage, Julian's armor cracked. Why would you do that for us? Rosalie's voice broke on the answer. Because you're my family now. Both of you. And family is worth dying for. Outside the window, storm clouds gathered over the city. Darkness swallowing the light. The abandoned warehouse sat on the industrial edge of the city, all rusted metal and broken windows bleeding shadows. Rain hammered the roof like bullets as Rosalie stepped out of the taxi at exactly 3 p.m. Her phone buzzed. Julian, I'm in position. 2 blocks east with tactical team. Say the word and we move in. She texted back. Give me 10 minutes. Let me try first. She'd convinced Julian to let her go in wired, a tiny microphone hidden in her jacket. He'd argued for hours, but she'd been immovable. This was her brother, her mess to clean up. The warehouse door groaned open. Inside, dim light filtered through broken skylights. Marcus stood in the center, gun hanging loose at his side. Behind him, Tommy sat bound to a chair, tears streaking his face. Rosie, Marcus said, something like regret in his voice. I'm glad you came. Let him go, Marcus, please. Can't do that. Not until Blackwood pays. Rosalie moved closer, hands raised. This isn't you. The brother I know wouldn't hurt a child. The brother you knew died when Blackwood destroyed my life. Marcus's voice cracked. I lost everything. My career, my dignity, even Mom's medical bills went unpaid because of him. Mom was already gone, Marcus. And what Blackwood did, you brought on yourself. You stole from him. I was desperate. And now you're making the same mistake. Rosalie's voice rose. You think this will fix anything? You think ruining an innocent child will give you peace? Tommy whimpered behind the gag. Rosalie's heart shattered. Let me take Tommy. Keep me instead. I'm worth more to Blackwood than the boy. Marcus laughed bitterly. You think I don't know you're sleeping with him? That this whole thing wasn't part of my plan? Rosalie went cold. What? I saw the security footage from his penthouse. The kiss. The way he looks at you. Marcus's smile was cruel. You were supposed to get information, not fall in love. But this works even better. He'll pay anything for you. You used me. We used each other, Rosie. You needed money for the kids. I needed revenge. We're not so different. Yes, we are. Because I'm choosing to stop. Rosalie moved toward Tommy. Marcus raised the gun. Don't. Shoot me if you have to. But I'm taking Tommy out of here. Outside, Julian heard everything through the wire. His hand moved to his radio. Hold, he whispered to the tactical team leader. Not yet. Inside, Rosalie knelt by Tommy's chair and began untying his bonds. Her hands shook but didn't stop. Rosie, I'm warning you. Then warn me, but I'm not leaving him. Tommy's ropes came loose. Rosalie pulled the gag from his mouth and he gasped, sobbing. It's okay, baby. I've got you. Marcus's gun hand trembled. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Then change the ending, Rosalie said softly, standing with Tommy in her arms. Put down the gun, let us go, and I'll convince Julian not to press charges. He'll never agree to that. He will if I ask, because despite everything, he's a better man than you think. For a moment, something human flickered in Marcus's eyes. His gun lowered an inch. Then car engines roared outside. Not Julian's team. Someone else. The warehouse door exploded inward. 3 men in masks stormed in, automatic weapons raised. Marcus Chen? The lead man barked. Marcus spun, gun up. Who the hell are you? People you owe money to, and we're done waiting. Everything happened at once. Julian screamed into his radio. Go now! Marcus fired. The masked men fired back. Rosalie threw herself over Tommy, shielding him with her body. Pain exploded through her shoulder as a bullet found flesh. She gasped, but didn't let go of Tommy. Tactical teams swarmed the warehouse. The masked men scattered under suppressive fire. Marcus crumpled, blood blooming across his chest. Julian burst through the door and saw Rosalie on the ground, crimson spreading across her jacket, Tommy crying beneath her protective embrace. Medic! Julian roared. I need a medic now. He dropped beside Rosalie, pressing his hands against the wound. Her blood was hot and sticky against his palms. Tommy, she whispered. Is he okay? Julian looked at his nephew, shaken but unharmed, and choked on relief. He's fine. You saved him. Good. Rosalie's eyes fluttered. That's good. Stay with me. Do you hear me? Stay with me. But Rosalie's eyes closed. Her breathing grew shallow. Paramedics rushed in. Julian was pulled away as they worked on her, barking medical terms he didn't understand. They loaded her onto a stretcher. Is she going to make it? Julian demanded. We're doing everything we can. Julian looked at Marcus, also being loaded onto a stretcher. Their eyes met across the chaos. Marcus's lips moved. I'm sorry. Then he was gone, wheeled away into uncertainty. Julian gathered Tommy into his arms, holding the boy who was finally safe, but his eyes stayed on the ambulance carrying Rosalie, sirens wailing into the storm. Tommy's small voice broke through. Uncle Julian? Is Rosalie gonna die? Julian's throat closed. He couldn't answer, because he didn't know, and the not knowing was killing him. Hours later, Julian sat in the hospital waiting room, Tommy asleep against his shoulder. His shirt was still stained with Rosalie's blood. His hand still shook. A surgeon emerged, mask hanging around her neck. Julian stood slowly, afraid to hope. Mr. Blackwood, we need to talk about Rosalie Hart's condition. The world held its breath. The bullet missed her heart by 2 inches, but there was significant damage to her shoulder. We've stopped the bleeding and repaired what we could. The surgeon paused. She's stable, alive, but there's something else you need to know. What? The injury severed nerves in her dominant arm. Even with physical therapy, she may never regain full mobility. Her ability to work, to take care of herself, it's going to be severely limited. Julian's legs nearly gave out. Can I see her? She's asking for you. Julian carried sleeping Tommy to a nearby chair where Julian's assistant waited. Then he followed the surgeon to Rosalie's room. She looked small in the hospital bed, pale against white sheets. Her left arm was heavily bandaged, but her eyes opened when he entered and they were clear. Hey, she whispered. Julian crossed to her side, taking her good hand. You're insane. You know that? I couldn't let him hurt Tommy. You almost died, but I didn't, and Tommy's safe. That's all that matters. Her voice cracked. How's Marcus? In surgery. Touch and go. Tears slipped down Rosalie's cheeks. He's still my brother. Despite everything, Julian understood, because family was complicated and messy and painful, but it was still family. I'm so sorry, Rosalie said, for all of this, for bringing this into your life. You saved my nephew's life. You took a bullet for him. Julian's voice broke. How could I ever be angry at you? I lied to you. I betrayed your trust. No, you made a mistake, and then you risked everything to fix it. Julian lifted her hand to his lips. That's not betrayal. That's sacrifice. Rosalie's tears flowed freely now. The surgeon told me about my arm. I won't be able to clean anymore, or take care of kids. Everything I know how to do is gone. Then we'll figure out something new. Together. Julian, you don't have to. I love you, he said simply. I've known it since that kiss. Maybe even before, and I don't care about your past or your mistakes. I care about who you choose to be now. Rosalie stared at him, hope and disbelief warring in her expression. You love me? Completely, foolishly, irrevocably. Julian smiled through his own tears. Marry me. What? Marry me. Be Tommy's guardian officially. Be my partner, my family. Choose us the way we choose you. I can't offer you anything. I'm broken now. No, Julian said fiercely. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. And you made us whole when we were the ones who were broken." Rosalie's good hand came up to cup his face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Their kiss tasted of tears and hope and futures rewritten. Outside the window, the storm had passed, leaving the city washed clean and glittering with possibility. 6 months later, autumn painted the city in amber and gold. The penthouse that once breathed loneliness now hummed with life. Tommy's drawings covered the refrigerator. Laughter echoed through rooms that had known only silence. Rosalie stood at the stove, her injured arm still weak but improving daily. Physical therapy had become routine. The pain had dulled to memory. She'd learned to cook one-handed, to adapt, to survive in new ways. Julian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and pressing a kiss to her neck. The wedding band on his finger caught the morning light. "Smells good," he murmured. "It's just eggs. Best eggs in the world." Rosalie turned in his arms, smiling. "You're biased." "Completely." They'd married quietly 3 months ago. No fanfare, just Tommy, a judge, and promises that meant everything. Julian had set up a trust fund for Rosalie's siblings, ensuring they'd finish school. He'd also launched a foundation in her mother's name for families in crisis. Rosalie had found new purpose, too. She'd started counseling other trauma survivors, her own scars making her the perfect guide for those still drowning. The work filled her in ways cleaning offices never had. Tommy burst into the kitchen, backpack bouncing. "Mom, Dad, I finished my project." "Mom." The word still made Rosalie's heart clench with joy every time. The adoption papers had been finalized last month. "Let's see it, buddy," Julian said, releasing Rosalie. Tommy spread out a poster board covered in photos. His family tree. At the top, pictures of his parents, forever young and smiling. Below them, Julian and Rosalie, with Tommy in the center. And at the bottom, Rosalie's siblings, all grinning at a recent barbecue. "It's everyone who loves me," Tommy explained. "Teacher said family isn't just blood. It's who shows up." Rosalie's eyes blurred with tears. Julian squeezed her good hand. The doorbell rang. Tommy ran to answer it, and Rosalie's breath caught. Through the foyer walked Marcus, leaning heavily on a cane. 6 months of recovery had aged him, carved wisdom into features that once held only bitterness. He'd survived the shooting, barely, and he'd made a deal with prosecutors, testifying against the loan sharks who'd forced his hand. 3 years probation, community service, a second chance he'd almost thrown away. "Marcus," Rosalie said softly. "Hey, Rosie," his voice was rough. "I know I wasn't invited, but I wanted to bring Tommy his birthday gift early." Julian stepped forward and the room tensed. These two had never been alone since the warehouse. Forgiveness was a journey, not a destination. "Thank you for coming," Julian said carefully. Marcus looked surprised. "I didn't think you'd want me here." "I don't, particularly," Julian admitted. "But Rosalie does. And Tommy should know all his family, even the complicated parts." Marcus's eyes filled. "I'm sorry. For everything. I almost destroyed the best thing Rosie ever found. You almost destroyed my nephew, my wife, my entire world." Julian's voice hardened. "But Rosalie believes in second chances. So I'm trying to as well. This doesn't mean I trust you, but it means I'm willing to let you earn it back." "That's more than I deserve." "It is," Julian agreed. "Don't waste it." Marcus nodded, then pulled out a wrapped package. "Tommy, I got you something." Tommy took it cautiously. Inside was a leather-bound sketchbook and a professional art set. The boy's eyes went wide. "Your mom told me you loved to draw," Marcus said quietly. "I thought you could use good supplies." "Thank you, Uncle Marcus," Tommy said. And something in Marcus broke and healed simultaneously. They shared breakfast together, awkward and tentative but real. Stories were told. Laughter came easier. When Marcus left, he hugged Rosalie tight. "You saved me," he whispered. "Even after everything, you still chose to love me." "That's what family does," Rosalie replied. "We break each other. We heal each other. We keep showing up." After Marcus left, Julian pulled Rosalie onto the balcony where they'd first kissed. The city sprawled below, alive and beautiful and full of second chances. "Do you ever regret it?" Julian asked. Everything you gave up? Rosalie looked at the view, at the man beside her, at the life they'd built from ruins. Her injured arm ached in the cold, a permanent reminder of the price of love. But she'd pay it again in a heartbeat. I gave up nothing, she said. I gained everything. Even with all the pain? Especially with the pain, because it taught us who we really are. She turned to face him. You're not the man who sat alone at 3 a.m. anymore. And I'm not the girl who thought cleaning offices was her only purpose. Julian pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. We're broken things that learn to fit together. No, Rosalie corrected softly. We're broken things that healed each other. Inside, Tommy was drawing their family, adding colors to the spaces that had once been empty. His laughter drifted through the open door, bright and unafraid. Julian and Rosalie stood wrapped in each other as the sun climbed higher, gilding the city in gold. Below them, millions of stories unfolded, hearts breaking, hearts mending, strangers becoming family. And in the penthouse that once knew only silence, 3 souls who'd found each other in darkness now lived in light. Not perfect, not painless, but wholly beautifully alive. Because the greatest love stories aren't about people who were never broken. They're about people who broke together and chose to heal. The end.